Contention. Critique. Conjecture. Conclusion.
The Huddle with paperplusoffice.co.nz. Shop online anytime. They're open 24/7.
Josie Pagani is back with us. Hello, Josie.
Hello, Larry.
And lovely to talk to you. And Cameron Slater from Whale Oil joins us again. Hello, Cameron.
Hey, Larry.
Josie, issue number one to you, the Fonterra mess. A product might have been contaminated by this whey protein. Exports of infant formula have been hit. China and Russia have banned imports on New Zealand infant milk powder. Not sure why Russia is doing this, because they actually don't import any. But anyway, what do you see in all of this mess, Josie?
Yeah, well, that's the problem, isn't it? They don't need to have a reason based on fact to ban our products. I just heard you interview Stephen Joyce. I heard his voice and I thought, Jesus, this must be bad. Stephen Joyce is involved. But I just think, look, they've had three failures in this, and 3 strikes and you're out, basically. We've had 3 infant formula crises in the last few years. It almost doesn't matter that the melamine wasn't directly their fault, or the ECD was a mistake, or the botulism was a dirty pipe, and it may end up not affecting anybody. The point is the perception there is 2 things. One is that it could be a risk, but also in the future, whenever Fonterra think wrong, we're just not going to believe them, and neither are our trading partners. So I just think that they are 100% responsible for turning this into a global scandal. It's an absolute outrage, and heads have to roll, and we have to look at the whole culture of Fonterra, which simply is not focused on the consumer at all.
Well, I kind of wonder, Cameron, whether they have a culture, a mindset of suppressing the facts. Look at the amount of time that this has taken to surface. What do you see in it?
I agree. I tend to agree with Josie, and it's an outrage that they've covered this up for so long. I know, just steady yourself there, Josie. Have a seat. Take deep breaths. This is an arrogant billion-dollar corporate here that has built an empire based on a culture of secrecy. It seems, if you talk out of line in the Fonterra fraternity, they knock you into shape. They hush you up. It seems to me that they do not have a culture of transparency. And many years ago in New Zealand, we had a mass campaign to break up another large monopoly provider, and that was telecom. And I think we've got a good case here for if we're not going to have heads roll, and corporate New Zealand tends not to have anybody take responsibility for anything. My God, we don't even have that with our politicians. In China, they'd already have arrested some executives. They'd already be sitting on death row. We're not going to have that, but we can do the next best thing and regulate them out of existence.
Actually, I totally agree with you, Cam, actually. God, this is frightening. But I think that the monopoly that Fonterra has, they had that privileged status for a reason, because they're meant to be very good for our economy. Our biggest dairy, obviously our biggest company, 30% of the global dairy export market. But when they start to risk that, we are so exposed from the incompetence of that one company. I think the time now is right to look at breaking it up. Let's have at least 2 cooperatives. Let's break them up. Let's break that monopoly, because there's something rotten there, Larry. It's the whole culture is just appalling, and 3 examples of it in the last few years. There's one thing, Larry. You've got the business hour coming up. I'd like to know how they could put out a prospectus and not disclose this.
Actually, we'll come back on that in a moment, because I've got some questions about that. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on The Huddle. It's now 12 to 6.
Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
Back on The Huddle with Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. We'll continue with Fonterra if we can, because I got to you a little bit late. Just picking up where you left off, Josie. Now, this could all be a coincidence, and I'm not into conspiracy theories or anything like that, but I note that Fonterra's unit price has been dropping over the last few weeks. It was $8.16, I think today it tanked, and then it got back up again. I think it dropped about 3.5%. Is it because bad news was pending, or, perhaps the NZX might just want to look at some of the stuff? They would surely have to notify the market anyway. Cam, what do you think about that?
Well, it's certainly worth looking at, and I think, if we're going to start unpacking Fonterra and looking very closely at them, then let's put them under the microscope for all of their business practices. Let's start looking at why they haven't moved to grading farms and water runoff. Let's start looking at the dirty dairying that goes on in some areas. Let's start looking at a whole range of business practices that they've got around supermarkets and locking in people for their products. Let's look at their pricing mechanisms as well for local content, for local product to locals where we're paying international prices for things. Let's just start unpacking them. They've shown that they can't be trusted, and we should just kick the slats out of them.
Fair point, Josie. What do you think?
Yeah, interesting though, Larry, to come back to your point about the stock exchange. I think probably they were so desperate to have Fonterra there that they've overlooked some of this. I think that the regulators have to go back and have a look at this, because if they've known about this for a year, if there's been even the slightest rumour going around, people selling on before the proverbial hit the fan, then there's got to be some. I
don't know. It just seems a little bit odd to me. Thank you, Josie. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on the Huddle. It's now 8 to 6.